Welcome back, everybody, where we're going to start with a quiz. You ready for this, Paul?
Okay.
You got to tell me which one of these is not ideal.
All right.
Ready? It's going to be a three-part quiz. A gentle sloping and banked curve while driving your Ferrari through the Italian countryside. A professor announcing that all of the tests will be graded on a curve. Or your $1,200 iPad being curved out of the box and Apple saying that's fine.
I honestly had no idea where you were going with that.
I thought that was pretty.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you who aren't aware, real quick here, this I think image believe came from Mac Rumors, and then a couple other websites followed up with Apple. And if you look real closely, it's got just a little bit of a bend to it, and for your
Probably
brand new
iPad
iPad
put it
Pro,
down on the table, right?
Yeah.
And there was either like a gap or it like rocked, depending on which side.
I figured you
laid it
could
on.
just spin it.
Mm-hmm. Obviously there were reports of this machine bending when it first came out, and I thought, people are always looking for this now, right? You're kind of going after it. Like there are sites and YouTube channels that do nothing but try to wreck devices. So I was like, they make thin devices, blah blah blah, whatever. But like that, this thing could actually, you're not going to put it in your pocket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that this thing could ship to the customer, warped. I mean, Apple has a quality problem. I believe I wrote an article with that exact title this year.
Would you care to see Apple's newest dongle?
Oh yes, I've seen this. This is good.
Yes.
Yep.
This is the iHammer for flattening out your.
So I think you would
Pro.
be better off using a what do you call this? A clamp, like
like a C clamp.
Yeah.
A vice.
A vice. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Just leave it in overnight. Look, we've had these kinds of problems in the personal technology industry forever. Like the first batch of Atari 520 STs that shipped in the United States, at least, the chip they to get them they wanted to beat Commodore to market, so they shipped these things really fast. And I guess the initial shipment, they didn't solder any of the chips.
Well, that's minor.
So because the chips had those spider leg type pins or whatever, and chips used to be pretty big.
Yeah.
So the solution from Atari was lift the device a foot off the table and drop it, and that would seat the pins, the chip pins into the whatever the bottom is, and it worked. And they eventually solved that problem. But Atari level of quality is not what Apple is looking for today. I'm sure Consumer Reports will ding them from this. They're really good at that.
I was going to say, let's not forget that the old Xbox 360 had the fantastic trick of wrapping it in a towel, letting it overheat, which would then reseat the heat sink, and then it would work fine. But yeah.
That's like burning a fever. It just doesn't sound like the right thing to do.
But nor does a bent iPad being.
I know. No, it's unacceptable. These devices are not inexpensive. They also don't do anything useful. I don't understand. No, they don't. Look, you have to have really simplistic needs for this thing to work for you as a work device. Like, if you're going to claim that you can get work done on an iPad, you're basically just admitting that most of what I do is read email and browse the web, which you could do on anything. Like this generation of iPad Pros has really freaked me out because they're nice looking, that's fine, there's USB-C, but it's no more useful than Lightning because of the way they constrain the port.
Yep.
This is not really an advance, and everyone's like reevaluate. Did they get it right this time? Does this thing work as a laptop? No, why would it? It's literally not any different in any meaningful way than its predecessor. It's just a waste of time. I don't get it.
Anyways, if your iPad Pro is bent, don't call Apple because they'll tell you it's fine.
You're bent.
With a smile. And
that's some arrogance right there, though, right?
Yeah.
When the iPhone 4 couldn't receive phone calls if you were holding it a certain way, Steve Jobs literally told someone you're holding it wrong. It's arrogant, right? Mm-hmm. It's incredibly arrogant, especially when the person you're kind of bitching and moaning to is a customer, not a critic or
right.
A competitor. Telling someone who complains that the $800 iPad Pro I just bought is bent out of the box and telling them that that's normal is just as arrogant. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's fantastic. It really is. It's just a good way to end Apple's probably what appears to be not so great quarter of them telling us.
So we should talk about this. I've been debating writing this. I kind of know that when I breach this topic, it's going to be seen incorrectly, right? Microsoft guy looking to find bad things about Apple is inventing some story. But I said this to you, I don't know if it was earlier this week or last week, but I said there's something going on with Apple, right? And I'm not talking like iPhone 10R is not selling as well as expected. I have no insight into that, right? How would I? All I can do is rely on whatever the reports are, and there are many, whatever. Some of them are very credible, some of them we don't know, but when you add them up, you kind of think, well, maybe something's going on here. I don't think it's just iPhone. And the evidence I have for this is that coincidentally or not, and again, human beings looking for conspiracy, that's how we think, but it is a fact that all of a sudden you can buy these things that Apple makes directly from Apple via Amazon. Like Apple is selling through Amazon.
Yep.
Like that just happened to happen. You can now buy, I don't know which devices, I'll make it up, but I know MacBook Air is part of it, but I want to say iPad Pro probably, and I think iPad now. Apple is delivering these things to Costco, and Costco is selling them to consumers on behalf of Apple. So that's the United States. I don't know about the rest of the world, but that's the U.S. Amazon's probably the rest of the world too. These things are on sale. Yep. And Apple is a company that does not have sales, literally does not have sales. They have promotions, right? They did a thing on Black Friday. They do a thing for back to school. They probably do other things, but their sales are not. There's never a thing on the Apple website that says iPad Pro, buy it today, $200 off. Never, 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 never. They don't do that. Sometimes they'll give you you buy an iPad Pro for school with a type cover and you get a free Beats headphone or something, whatever it is. They do stuff like that. Apple products, and I mean like almost literally all Apple products, have been on sale continuously, right?
Yeah.
For a month and a half now. Like it's insane. Like I mentioned somewhere, I think with Andrew over the Black Friday weekend. I want to replace my iPad Mini. I have a 128 gig iPad Mini. I have that much storage because I put movies on it when I travel. I like to have stuff offline so I can watch movies. It's simple. And they haven't made an iPad Mini in like 4 years. And so this thing, the one I have, is beaten up, which is one thing. The battery life has fallen off a cliff. It's terrible. And the performance is lousy because it's like 3 or 4 chip generations old now. So there are rumors they may release a new one. I've been holding out. But the 9.7-inch iPad, which is a little too big, a little too heavy, but was on sale for $100 off, roughly speaking, over the Black Friday weekend. So I'm doing this off the top of my head. I could be completely wrong, but the 128 gig version I think is normally $429, and it was on sale for $339. And I looked at that thing. I brought it up on the website like all weekend long, and then I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to spend this money.
A rational choice, I might add. Very rational.
It's hard to make these. Well, no, don't worry. I fail in the end. So,
as any any good story is.
Right. Well, I bought an iPhone refurbished on Amazon. Right. This phone, which is by the way pristine, is $150 cheaper than had I gotten it from Apple refurbished. So it was like $339 versus $489. I think was the price. And probably still is the price. That was actually through a third-party seller that's approved by Amazon, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't from Apple, so I can't really count that into the list. But Apple is selling iPads from Amazon. Like I said, they've gone down lower now. So that same iPad went down to $339, and the 32 gig version was like $259 or something. Like lowest prices everywhere and anywhere at any time. And were sold by Apple. Yeah. And so I was like, damn it. I'm like, all right, screw it. I got to buy this thing. And so I bought it. By the way, a week later, it was $10 cheaper. Like it went down even further. And all I can think is, like, this is a company that's not going to report unit sales, right? So, but what they are going to report is revenues and profits, right? And I don't know if they'll still break that up by division like they had before, by product, probably not, but it doesn't really matter. the point is there's going to be this big number. And it is going to be a big number. Apple's a big company, but I think that the iPhone problems, which are real, with those new devices not selling as well as they expected, especially the X or the 10R, are not all the is not the. I think this is not the whole story. I think all of Apple's businesses right now have collapsed, and I think part of it is the price increases, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is simply just like we're over. There's too much of it. Like this is too much. Like it's like this treadmill. I think it's just a perfect timing kind of thing where people are like, God, enough. Like I'm just going to sit still on what I have,
Yeah.
And I think to get people to upgrade, they've offered those crazy discounts on the iPhone, which they've never done before, off their website, which is unprecedented. And they're starting to sell these things where they can have secret sales,
Ooh. Yeah.
through big retailers, both brick and mortar like Costco and electronic like online like Amazon.
The thing that would be
I think
interesting
this
to
is
see
something.
if they report, I'm going to interrupt you because you'll understand why.
No, I know. I'm sorry. Please.
The thing that'll be interesting to see if they no longer report, but I think they have to, is average selling price. Because now that they're no longer doing units, fine. I mean, that's annoying as it is. No company becomes less transparent because things are going well. Let's just put that out there. But okay, so they're gonna report iPhone sales, whatever. It's usually $40 billion something. It's a large number. But what's going to be interesting is the average selling price, because what Paul, I think you're alluding to here, is that they can make more money by selling things at less cost, right? Obviously, you can sell more units, and so their revenue could go up, but if their average selling price drops, then we know that was a symptom because they had to cut pricing. And so that is the figure I'm going to be watching for. It's the only thing we really have anymore.
Assuming they say anything. So
exactly, assuming they say anything.
Apple's high-end devices. So, by the way, any conversation about Apple, you have to kind of you have to put a little caveat. They're still going to sell millions and millions of these devices, right? So, the iPhone 10s and S Max and X and R or whatever may not have sold as well as they expected. They're still selling great, right? So, compared to the rest of the industry, that means they're selling devices that cost $750, $1,000, $1,250, whatever the price is, in the millions of units. And so that can really help with the average selling price because, this sale, this wasn't from Apple, but Apple does sell refurbished phones from their site. Does Apple count refurbished iPhone sales in total iPhone sales? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're ever going to get an answer to that, but let's say that they do. I mean, this phone sells for $489. That would help drop the average selling price. But they're also selling an iPhone Max for $1,250, which will really, really escalates it up. And so my expectation, if they release these numbers, is that Apple will announce, first of all, results that blow everyone away, like, what were we right about? Everything's great. Until we really start thinking about it, right? But also that the average selling price, I'll just say of the iPhone, actually did go up. And the rationale for that is not very hard to think, to kind of work through. They are now selling 3 stratospherically priced phones, not just one, So I don't know. But anyway, my point though, and you can look for this yourself. This is not like I just wrote a thing about conspiracy theories today. This is not a Paul succumbing to conspiracy theories. Like I have been looking at this and thinking about it and comparing prices versus different stores, and I've been following Apple 20 years really. I mean, they have never done this. They've never done this. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah,
I think it means something.
I wonder if the bent iPad Pros, just foreshadowing. I don't know. We will usually, I want to say roughly late January is when they report earnings, I think. So
yeah, I think so.
This will be I don't know. We're about a month away from finding out what's going on.
Two things. Apple, everyone who was an Apple fan, well, they have $100 trillion or whatever in the bank. Yeah. Also, I would add to that, decline usually happens really fast, really slow rather, if you're a big company, right? So if Apple sold 10% fewer iPhones, which we won't know, that would be bad, but it's 10% of the highest selling smartphone model in the world.
Right.
So and the
They're
rest of the
not.
industry
They're
is
not going
doing
under.
so good.
They're not going
Yeah.
out of business. It's just.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that they're just getting knocked off their very high horse and onto a slightly higher horse.
Well, there are compounding factors to decline that are going to be interesting to watch for. Apple has done what Microsoft used to do in the PC industry by kind of formalizing technologies. Apple has played that role in mobile, especially, right? If Apple loses that influence, it becomes less important in ways that are a little harder to pin down with dollar signs, but they actually really do matter a lot. If they lose too many influencer type people, if they lose too many normal people who are like, I've had 3 Camrys in a row, I think I'm ready for something a little dangerous,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Android this time or something. All of this stuff can compound and come to really hurt the company. So, the problem they've always had under Tim Cook has been what's the next big hit, and they've never really had it. They've had a couple of kind of minor hits, and I think that problem remains.
Yeah. Well, speaking of other problems, and we're not talking about Paul's. Actually, I was going to make fun of you for something, but then I just forgot what I was going to do. It's maybe
it the bloody face,
maybe it was just Kris Kringle in the background saying, "You know what? Just be nice for Christmas. Just be nice."
Here's one for you, Brad.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kris Kringle, we spent yesterday going out checking on those lights outside, right?
God.
Well, I'm curious.
Go
It
on.
seems like it's working, right? And then we go to bed, and I went outside to check one last time, and they were all in the normal color. Now, with the normal color being like a white, yellow, whatever the normal light color is. And I'm like, what? So this is the second night in a row. It's going to happen every night, obviously. So I don't believe, although it's possible, someone has flicked the switch, realized they made the mistake, and flipped it back. I mean, I guess I should interrogate my daughter. I'll do that when she gets home. But I wonder if there isn't something about those garage lights that the power is tripped and it just defaults. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know how am I going to. Would I have to go to every 15 minutes now at night? It's like
I
10,
think you should
10
just
15.
camp out in the front yard.
It just watch the lights. It's just, I don't know what's going on.
You'd be that strange neighbor sitting in your front yard with a lawn chair looking at your house.
Right.
Change,
Looking
you
at the
bastards,
house.
change.
Is he holding a shotgun? Yeah.
Since we're on a random topic anyways, I got to give a shout out to my wife, Paul. She won the baking competition at her work with some delicious cookies. And so I'm doing my husbandly duty to promote that. She is a good baker of cookies.
Okay.
And that's it. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Something. Yep.
You want me to call her and offer my congratulations?
Maybe, well, the kid might be very excited about that. I don't know about my wife, but anyways, back to things that matter. I'm going to qualify a statement here that if it ever starts out with the phrase, a former Microsoft intern says, you put so much salt on it, you feel like you're in the salt flats of Utah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I got to start. I've been working the same way for a long time. And by a long time, I mean like 20 years. And sometimes people, begrudgingly, yes, in a very non-teamwork focused fashion. Sometimes people email me or comment or something, and they'll say, "Look, how come you didn't write about this thing?" And and my sort of, this is such a stupid response, really. It's like, you should understand that when I don't cover something, it's because I don't feel that it's worth covering, right? But obviously, this is not the right approach, because when this thing happened, when this intern from the Edge team said that Google was breaking the internet so they could hurt Microsoft, my immediate reaction was that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And but I should have covered this immediately. Like I feel dumb that I didn't. But now we've had a bunch of corresponding confirmations of my original opinion, which is that this is nonsense. And I'll just throw out some obvious things. First of all, an intern on the Microsoft Edge team has no insight into the strategy of either Microsoft or Google at a corporate level and what they would or would not do to harm a competitor or make their products better or worse. I'm sorry. In many ways, it's fair to say that people like you and me on the outside who have a broader view of the industry probably have a more informed perspective than someone like that because they're kind of face down doing their thing. But whatever. I mean, that's not even fair. I don't know. But there was a web developer who saw the explanation that this guy had given for one of the things Google supposedly did to Edge. Mm-hmm. And he said, that's interesting. I had to do that on my own site that plays video. And I had to do it because of Microsoft Edge. And I didn't do it to hurt Microsoft Edge. I did it because Microsoft Edge is so poorly implemented that it doesn't handle video correctly on the internet. And so I had to do this workaround myself. So if this guy is describing this accurately, I know exactly what Google was thinking when they fixed this because Microsoft Edge is horribly broken. And he goes off on some giant rant about all the things that are wrong with Edge. And I'm not going to bore anyone with that. I'm sure he's right, but whatever. The other thing I want to point out, because this guy kind of said, "Oh, isn't it interesting that Google started talking about battery life in Chrome just after they broke Edge with YouTube?" I thought, well, that's something I have written about a lot because Microsoft, with every single version of Windows 10, except for this one, by the way, has come out and said this is how much better Edge is than Chrome with battery life. The thing is, it's gone down every single time. So 2.5 years ago, it's off the top of my head, forgive me if this is incorrect, but I believe they had a 47% battery life advantage over Chrome. 1.5 years ago, it fell to 35%, and 6 months ago, it fell to 14%. If you kind of look at the curve on the chart, you could kind of figure by the time we get to this latest version, it's possible, without Google doing anything, that the battery life advantage that Edge used to enjoy might have completely disappeared. It's also possible, by the way, that Google has done something to improve battery life in Chrome. In fact, that might have been the impetus for them writing about how they had done something to improve battery life in Chrome, that it wasn't just about chopping off Edge at the knees, that they actually improved their own product, God forbid. So I've written about that. And I tweeted when the new version of Windows 10 came out, isn't it interesting we have not seen Microsoft put out a post about how much better battery life Edge gets anymore. I think that's because that doesn't exist anymore, or it's so small it doesn't matter. And I made the case, by the way, back in May or whenever that was. 14% battery life difference? What are you kidding me? I'll take the lower battery life so I can get the internet that actually works. Like that's the normal, matrix of decision making there. So we got that guy. But we also have Google, which came out with an official statement that said, yeah, we never did that. And so, look, you may not trust anything Google says. I guess I get it. But again, I would just ask people to think clearly here. Is it more likely that Google institutionally and strategically has decided to target its massive guns down at this little browser that gets 3.65% usage share, and they're going to make the entire internet slower, according to Microsoft intern, just to blow that thing out of the water? Really? There are easier ways of killing an ant, And by the way, my central point behind all this is that Google did not work to undermine Microsoft Edge, in my opinion, but again, just my opinion. But it is not an opinion that Edge was actually undermined by Microsoft itself.
Correct.
That the decisions it made, which were horribly wrong, limited its ability to update this thing on a timely basis, and it never caught up and never could catch up with Chrome or Firefox or Opera or anything else. When you only updated a browser twice a year, compared to every 6 weeks for Chrome, you're not catching up. And when that browser only runs on one operating system, not all three of the operating systems that you support, you have artificially limited the scope and the reach of that application. So whatever Google did or didn't do is kind of immaterial at this point because this thing was killed by Microsoft.
Yep. I tend to agree here. Not to mention, if Google intentionally did limit Edge in functionality, that would open the door to so many legal rat's nest things that Google would never want to have to deal with. And I can only imagine that the EU would have been salivating if they would have come out and said, yeah, maybe we did target Edge.
Can you imagine? I mean, right. I sorry, you made a tweet to this effect. I mean, the legal implications of what Google, first of all, Chromium is obviously open source, so people can look at that. I mean, so if Google was doing this, I guess they're doing it at the Chrome level, right? The part they don't share the code or whatever. Does this actually sound plausible to anybody? I mean, like seriously? It just doesn't make sense. It's not like these two giant behemoths are facing each other across the field, and one of them has like 55% market share, and the other one has 46% market share. It's going up and down, and it's time to get down and dirty. You don't notice the ant on the sidewalk. You just walk by it.
Here's another interesting one, pivoting again. There's something in all of Microsoft's massive communication woes. This is another one that kind of runs up there that I understand what it's doing, but something doesn't feel right about this. So Microsoft announced this massive Windows build yesterday, but one of the things in there is designed for Windows 10 Enterprise only, and it's called Automatic Restart in SignOn. So here's what it does. If you're an admin and you deploy whatever, 1809, pick your build, whatever, the biggest challenge you have now is that new user comes in, they sit down at their computer, they have their coffee, they're ready to start working, and they get on and they say, please wait, your files have not gone anywhere, and all that crap. And it's really annoying. And so Microsoft says they have a way to get rid of that, and it's called Automatic Restart and Sign-On, or ARSO. And it only works on Windows 10 Enterprise, and you have to have BitLocker, TPM 2.0, and Secure Boot, and a couple other things set up. And so what happens here is that when an admin deploys 1809, and it goes to that machine, the machine will then restart itself, automatically sign that user in, finish the install process so that when they sit down with their coffee and all that stuff, it'll be up and running, which is great. This is good. But what's not sitting right here are two things. One, this seems really odd, like security-wise, because that means Windows can automatically authenticate itself, which is one thing, right? It's obviously logging in as that user automatically and doing everything else. Okay, that is challenge number one.
But hold on a second. Is there an interactive session available while it's doing that, or is this like a silent login that's happening in the background?
Yeah,
so that the user is not inconvenienced when they actually sign in.
The latter. So it just happens.
So
which is fine. I mean, it's okay. It just feels a little weird. But the other kind of thing is like, why the hell does this still have to happen? Like, why?
Right. So right.
Because
I don't know if you're aware of this, but the Windows setup application that we use, I'm actually not sure what it dates back to. At least probably Vista. Let's say Vista. I'm not actually sure, but it really hasn't changed that much over the years. And so in order to make it seem shorter, they've made some artificial changes, right? So they made some obvious ones, take a few steps out of settings. So for example, you don't get to choose your time and your time zone anymore, right? The idea is that it will do that for you automatically. And everyone who uses Windows knows that doesn't work, but whatever, sometimes it works. But then they've done some other, and of course they've added stuff back too, like Cortana thing that they added back. They've kind of gone up and down on it recently. But the goal over time was to kind of reduce the number of stuff that you had to deal with, right? The number of things. But the other way you can make setup shorter is you can have setup conclude before it's done, and that's what they're doing now. So there's a part of setup that happens after you log in for the first time, and it happens for every single user. So most people probably only have one account, but if you Brad, whatever your account is on your computer, setup occurs, it upgrades, it installs a new version, whatever it is, and then you log in, and then the rest of setup occurs, and that's when it says, "Hi, we're doing stuff for you. Let's keep Windows up to date." It does this animated thing because it doesn't want you to think that nothing is wrong. In the old days, that would just kind of happen before you could, before you logged in, and you would wait longer, but now it's like, there's my login, it's done. Click, click, click. Nope. And it doesn't, I don't know. Sometimes it takes a little while, but usually it probably takes a couple minutes or something. But
I don't know. This whole
shuffling,
like it's an artificial login too, right? It's not like it feels like they should be able to just bypass this whole thing. But here we are, that Microsoft is telling us that they have to artificially log the user in to finish the setup. Because there's not a better way.
I think that this is the way it used to work, to be honest. So, when the Windows setup could be smart enough to look at the computer and say, actually, there's only one interactive user, Paul. So what we're going to do is, while we're on that blue screen, not the bad blue screen, but the normal setup blue screen, we're going to sign into that account behind the scenes. It's not interactive. We're going to do all that stuff where normally it's like, "Hi, we're here to help you," or whatever it says. And so setup will take 2 minutes longer or something. Yeah. But when it comes back up and you get to type in your PIN or do whatever you do to log in, you just see the desktop immediately. And I honestly, I think that's fine. It gets tricky if you have multiple logins, because is it going to do that silently for each login on the computer? Maybe. I mean, you're going to add a step to settings and have you choose, like, evaluate what they're explaining and then say yes or no to that. I think this is just a byproduct of the fact that we're using a setup routine. I could be wrong. It could be even older than that, but I don't believe it's fundamentally changed since at least Windows Vista.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that's enterprise only. So if you were thinking you were going to avoid that on your home or pro setup, you're not. So.
Yeah, and you could make the argument that in a commercial setting where these things are managed and controlled, and they're going to have boot time protections on the system that may not exist for home users, that this is fine. I would prefer it this way myself. I don't like to sign in the first time and then have to wait again.
No, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, that whole process is broken, that you're like, oh, okay, so I'll sit here for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Windows update says it's installed. Your machine reboots. Like, all right, we're gonna play some games, and then, no, you're not. And
exactly. Right. It would almost be better if it offered you some games to play while you were waiting for this to finish. Would you like to play a little Minecraft or whatever?
You got anything else for today?
Well, yeah. So I revealed the giveaway and how that's going to work. As we've been talking, people have been complaining on Twitter. Maybe Person has been complaining on Twitter that our registration thing on Thurrott.com is broken now. So I'll have to bring that to Tim and see what's going on there. But yeah, maybe I'm now that this has kind of happened, I think it's good that I wrote about this before it was ready to go, because it would have been kind of a shit show if we launched the giveaway. But so for people who don't know what I'm talking about, probably sometime today we'll be giving away 5 codes each for Office 365 Home and Xbox Game Pass via an article on the site that will run for 24 hours. And then I'll pick people randomly. Actually, I'm probably going to involve you in that, Brad. I think to keep it on the up and up, I'll have you, you choose the numbers. I'll tell you how to do it.
Can I randomly pick me?
No. Oh. And anyway, and then at some point I'll be getting the hardware from Microsoft, and that's 5 Surface Gos with type covers and 5 Surface headphones. And I'll do a similar post about that. That may be U.S. only, maybe U.S. Canada only. I would consider maybe international people if they pay for shipping, but that stuff is such a disaster.
Yeah, it gets really expensive to ship anything.
And and it's something I have to handle personally too. So it's just kind of onerous on me, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but the way I'll do that, the problem is I'll be traveling next week after Christmas, so I don't know when the hardware is going to arrive exactly. I got to get this agreement back to Microsoft, so it's possible that will be after New Year's, but we'll see. If it arrives immediately, you never know. I'll do it as soon as I can.
You should take a picture of all that hardware. I'm assuming it's going to come on a pallet under your outdoor hue lights.
Right. Assuming and they'll be yellow because I can't get them to work. And then we have 5 more codes each for the Xbox Game Pass and the Office 365 Home. And so next Friday, not this Friday, but a week from Friday when we do the live show for First Ring Daily at 1 p.m. Eastern, we'll give away the remaining 10 codes, 5 each, through the chat room.
Yeah, probably just drop them in the chat room. It's not a week from Friday. It'll probably be January 4th, unless we're doing one on the 28th, because that's which we.
That's not a week from Friday.
Yeah.
You're
2
right.
weeks.
Yeah, I don't understand time or space for that matter.
It's a fabric, I think they say.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, 2 weeks from Friday. Sorry.
Yep. All good. All good. It's a lot of stuff. Really is.
Yeah. It will be just enough that I won't want to do another giveaway for at least another year. So that'll be nice.
Alrighty. You got anything else for today, Mr. Thratt? Hopefully.
I guess not.
All right.
What about you?
Well, I'm going to go attempt to get my hair cut. I've been trying to do this for about 3 days, but every time I go over there, it's like a mile long, and I'm a mile long line, if I can speak.
Right.
But I just, so I'm going to go run over there.
I have a little check-in thing I can do online, like on an app.
Well, see, I go to like a 1930s barber where they still have the little spinning wheel thing outside, and everybody.
I like that.
The average age of the barbers is, I think, 104. They still talk about the Depression, and they're not talking about 2008.
The last time I got my hair cut, a younger girl who I'd never seen before did it, and the way you can see, I get it cut really short on the sides, and then it's in my. I have a file, right? So
yeah,
it's described as finger length at the top. Now finger lengths vary.
Yeah, I was going to
say
say
pretty long.
It's very subjective.
But the last girl, she cut it really short, and she said she got it too short. It was like really short, and she said she kind of, I could tell she knew that she had done this wrong, and she said, "Well, I did what it said. It said to do it finger length," and I said, "Yeah, finger length, not finger width." Like, so this time I had an adult, and it went better.
An adult, so yep. And just as coverage or whatever, there will be a podcast tomorrow, and it will go live at 1 o'clock. But Paul and I, well, not even Paul, me specifically, have a conflict at that time. And so we're going to record it ahead of time. So there won't be a live one tomorrow. But have yourselves a wonderful Thursday, and we'll catch you tomorrow.